Not all companies are out to get you. I think the message many professionals are hearing right now, especially on social media, is that companies don't care about you. Of course, there are companies that dismiss their employees and see them as replaceable, but there are still companies who are fighting for their employees, and my guest this week works for one of those organizations. Cunningham is the director of corporate recruitment for Xpress, a supply chain trucking company located in Tennessee with spots all over the U.S. Aside from Kai sharing her over 20 years of experience in recruiting, she openly shares how Xpress is listening to their employees. I'll let you listen to the episode to learn more, but it made my heart happy to know that there are organizations who are listening and implementing what their people want from them. For any recruiters listening to this episode, you'll also get to hear how Kai and her team are changing up their hiring process to be more competitive in the current world of work. This high-energy interview will educate you and motivate you to continue in your job search process wherever you are now and give you some great tips to be successful. As always, if you want to connect with me or need inspirational and educational career management and advancement content, you can follow Ride the Tide on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. But these days, I'm primarily on LinkedIn. Please subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out on future episodes. And if you didn't know, I also have the video version of this interview on my YouTube channel, which you can also subscribe to. Just search Ride the Tide Collective. I appreciate your support. Welcome, everyone. We are back for another episode where we are interviewing recruiters and we are looking at the recruiter's perspective. My guest today has an insane amount of experience within the recruiting industry. She's been at different corporate sites. She has been with agencies. She's been all over the place. So I'm really excited to have her perspective today. Cunningham is with us, and she is currently with Xpress, which is a supply chain trucking company. And I'm also really excited to have that perspective here. So Kai, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast and be a guest here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to talk to you.
You know, it's crazy right now with recruiting. So I feel like the timing of this is so great to help educate professionals on what you guys are looking for as recruiters. So I'm excited as well to see what you have to offer.
I am. So let's get into this because we got a lot of ground to cover.
Yes. Okay. So tell us a little bit about your recruiting, your talent acquisition experience, what you're doing now, and what you're recruiting for.
So I have about 20 years of recruitment experience. I actually started off in healthcare, to be honest, as a medical assistant, worked with a phenomenal doctor, and he allowed me to do some recruitment and some office work and told me, you have a knack for this. You need to go into recruiting. And he helped introduce me into a corporation here in Cincinnati, Ohio. And that's where I started the recruitment career. I have recruited for both agency, as you said, and both corporate. On the agency side, of course, you love the commission because that is phenomenal. It is a lot of highs and lows. You can't really control the process as much as I would like to, but I got to meet a lot of great, phenomenal leaders. I got to work with a lot of great partners. I got to establish a lot of great relationships with candidates that I still have to this day. And so I really love that part. But on the corporate side, I feel like you get to be a part of the true recruiting process and get to lead it and guide it. So that's why I love corporate recruiting as well. So kind of bounce back and forth. I think I'm a little unique, but I also love building. So that is why I just went right back into corporate and jumped in this opportunity to be at Xpress because we are doing a lot of great things. A lot of things in recruiting are coming out and rolling out. So it's pretty exciting. Good time to be in it.
Yes, I love that. So I love the breadth of experience that you have because I think not only does that add to the position that you're in,
Absolutely.
but again, for us, we get to hear all of that knowledge. So what types of positions are you recruiting for at US Express? Because it is supply chain, but you're more on the corporate side. So what does that look like?
So, under the corporate umbrella of US Express, I'm the director. So, we have shop and corporate recruiting. So, that's everything outside of a driver. Everything else we are recruiting for, as well as partnering with our sister companies who are looking for roles within Variant and Express Technology, also Total Logistics. So, really excited to partner with them too. Types of roles we hire for would be anything to do with the shop or warehouse. This would be some of our diesel technicians, roles like that. And then under the corporate side, this could be anything in finance, tech, it could be anything executive leadership. So we have a wide breadth of roles that fall up under that umbrella because the group is so large.
Right. Oh my gosh. So kind of everything from like your hourly warehouse person to
Absolutely.
like high level executive and
Level.
all of that.
Our
Wow.
C-suite.
Okay. So, okay, let's talk about the Great Resignation because I
Oh,
think
yeah.
even within that breadth of variety that you're recruiting for, how has the Great Resignation impacted the recruiting cycle at your company?
Well, we've noticed that positions that were once really easy to fill, like you could post a position for a recruiter or an executive assistant and get tons of applications for those type of positions now require you to source a little bit for even those entry level hourly positions that once before we did not have to source for as deeply as we do. We've had to come up with creative ways to attract talent. One of the things that our organization did that I was very impressed by was we did a survey where we polled the employees and asked them what benefits would they like to see in their benefit plan. What could we add? Every suggestion that the employees made was implemented within the same year. So for 2021, we did the survey at the beginning of the year. At the end of the year, we announced that in 2022, we were going to roll out those benefits they wanted to see. So I love being a part of an organization that not only hears from the employees, but we implement and make plans behind it. That's amazing.
Oh
Normally,
my
you may get one or
gosh.
two, but not all
Yes.
of the requests.
Oh my gosh. Okay. We have to talk about this for a minute because I will tell you this is one of the biggest complaints that I am seeing across the board from people. They're not getting the benefits they want. The company doesn't care about their current employees, all of that. I have to tell you how refreshing it is
It
to
is.
hear that there is a
Yeah.
company out there who is actually listening to their current employees and helping them succeed and thrive in the workplace. That
And it
just makes my
adds
heart happy.
value. It really does, especially when you have that support from leadership going down. One of my team members recently talked about how he was sourcing for a hard to fill position, and he just happened to mention it on our team call. And he had the our chief people officer, jump in and source for candidates for that role. Not because he asked her
Wow.
to, but just because she wanted to do it for him. So it's that type of leadership that we're following behind and mimicking. And when you feel that flow from the top, it just starts to resonate throughout the rest of the organization. It creates a positive culture that you want to be a part of. And so I think
Wow.
that kind of helps make the difference for our org, especially when it comes to Great Resignation, because people want to feel valued. They
Yeah.
want to feel like we are contributing to something bigger, that my work makes a difference. And that's a little bit of some of the things that we started to implement and put in place. And not just to do another survey just to do it and hear what you say, but we
Right.
actually care about what you say. And so much so that we're not going to plan to implement this 5 years from now. We're going to implement it right now. Let's see what we can do today.
Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
Oh, I love that. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
so excited. I don't even work there. I'm so excited.
Right.
It's again, it's just so refreshing. Okay, I'm curious to know because you've been in recruiting for so long,
Right.
you're seeing the great resignation happen. Given your experience, you saw the crash of
Yeah.
'08, '09. Can you explain like what makes this so different from your perspective
Mhm.
than other periods of time where maybe we see a hiring boom or we see some shifts and changes? Like, what do you think the great resignation is all about?
Well, back in '08, we had relocated from Cincinnati to Atlanta. And I just remember during that time period, not being able to find a position. I mean, not even through a staffing firm. It was next to impossible in some areas. And at that time, I was in administrative support in early recruitment. And so struggling like I did then, you just see something different now. There is more roles available than there are often people to take those positions. One of the things that we noticed just a week ago was there were 9,000 recruiter positions that open across the US within 24 hours. That's a lot of companies saying, we need a recruiter, help us out. And so when you see something like that, and I mean, that's just that open in 24 hours. I think we noticed at that time that across the US, there were over 200,000 recruiter positions available on LinkedIn alone. And so that says something about the number of companies that are saying, we need some additional help finding talent, because that's normally when you bring in a recruiter, when you need help finding talent. So we are not only having an issue finding talent, but we're having an issue finding the people to help us find the talent. So we've got double issues going on here. And a lot of companies are starting to figure out that we have to find creative ways to attract the talent that we are just having the biggest struggle in finding. And so that's where you're going to have to start thinking outside of the box and doing some things creative in recruitment and reevaluating for your organization. How do we create a plan that's going to help us entice people to want to work from us? I worked for an organization where we were recruiting in warehousing, and they were thinking it was just the pay rate. If we raise the pay rate, we will be okay. Well, this company was paying $14 an hour, but the fast food chain on the corner was paying $15.50. So you have to look around and see what other roles are there. So somebody who is working fast food would make more than your warehouse workers and your warehouse employees. So that was only part of the problem, though. We had to look at the culture of the organization, because employees want to work where they feel valued.
Right.
That is not fluff. People want that.
At all levels, too. I think that's important to remember, because I feel like, those warehouse positions, I think a lot of people have this, it's a second, it's just an afterthought. Mm-hmm. It's not. If you've ever been in warehouse culture, they have their own way, their own culture, and you want to make sure that that's positive there.
You absolutely do, because there is another warehouse on the next corner that is also hiring, and your employees have options. They can choose to stay with your organization or go somewhere else. So you are going to have to get creative in being able to keep them and keep them engaged. Right. That is what we're going to have to do as employers.
Right. So it's interesting. Your perspective, I think, has been slightly different than what we've been hearing about the Great Resignation. So what we've been hearing is candidates are like, I'm out, I'm leaving.
Absolutely.
Right. That is happening. Yeah. But the other side of that is there are companies that are having a hard time finding talent, which is why people have been able to leave and find opportunities.
We cannot backfill the opportunities fast enough in some of the organizations. Now, one of the things that we've noticed is that with our recruitment org, we were able to not only attract talent, but we were able to retain more talent across the board. And that was because we implemented certain things. We worked on culture, we worked on development, we worked on strategically creating a growth plan for that person in that position. And then we also started to engage the employees a lot more than I think a lot of organizations do. We make it our business to not look at you as a number, but you are actually an individual. Shocker. And you have dreams, goals, and visions. What? And so we want to figure out the best way to help you obtain those goals and those dreams and those visions.
Yeah. Okay. For anybody who is listening to this, rewind, go back, listen to what Kai is saying, because this is what you want to see. This is what you want to hear from companies. These are the types of things that you want to ask about. And I'm so happy that I have you as a guest, because I really feel like this shows people, yes, there are companies that are thinking about this. You just have to find them.
Yeah,
you have to do that research. You have to, listen to podcasts like this one. I'm not the only one that does interviews like this, and learn who's doing the right thing by their employees. And it sounds like you guys are doing a great job of that.
And one of the things that I'm noticing more interviews are candidates are asking more questions. They want to know, what is the culture like? What can I expect out of this position? What is the team dynamic? Can you tell me a little bit of background? Why is this role vacant? What happened? Did somebody quit? I mean, you're starting to get candidates who are deep diving into the information behind the role, as opposed to before you would get more candidates who were just, what is the pay rate?
Right, right.
What are the benefits? That's all I need to know. When can I start? Now it seems that candidates recognize that they have choices. And so I'm going to deep dive into what you're selling me, so I make sure this is the right position for me. One of the things I think our recruiters do a fantastic job of is letting candidates know, while I'm interviewing you, you are interviewing me. So before you hang up this phone, I want to make sure that if I extend an offer, you would be comfortable in saying yes, absolutely. And all of your questions are answered. So I think we approach the process a little bit differently.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's so great. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit more about interviewing in just a second.
Yes.
I would love to know, like, is there a hiring cycle within your organization, or like, are there high times, low times, or is it really just as things open up?
No, our positions depend on truck count. A lot of our roles do. So as we get drivers into seats and start driving for our organization, we base our numbers for certain roles based on that information. So to support that driver, we need to make sure that we have our support roles in place so that particular driver and the business is sustained. And so that is pretty much how most of our positions are divvied up. We also base our positions like we're going through a new ERP. So some of our positions are tied to that ERP, and there are times when we start to open in those roles as well. It just depends on which role, which location, and also which part of the business does it touch when that position will be available. And then there are some positions that we recruit for all the time. Like, we never stop recruiting for those roles.
Okay, good. That's good to know, because there are some industries out there that have very clear seasons of hiring, and others like yours, it's based on whatever is going on within the business. So I think that's really good to know.
As the business grows, we've got to support it.
Yeah, and I think it's good to know as a candidate, keep looking back at some of these companies that, maybe don't have something open now, but keep a ping on them so that when the positions open up.
We encourage candidates to join our talent pool, our talent network, because our recruiters are often looking in that network to find candidates for positions that may have open. So although we don't have an opportunity for you right now, in a few months when that role opens, we will definitely reach back out to you and see if you're available at that time for that position. So that is a good way to get into an organization and stay in front of a recruiter and abreast of the opportunities that organization may have.
Nice. Okay, that's good to know, because I think some people question, like, should I still submit? It says I can. Does that even matter? So at your organization, you are actually looking at those and sourcing from those when new positions open up.
We do. And we also have a AI system that we partner with for our team. And the AI system will siphon through candidates who've applied to roles so that we can go back and retarget them at a later date for an opportunity as well. So that is definitely a good thing. That's why we tell people, join the talent network. Just because we don't have it open now, trust me, when it's open, you want us to contact you.
Oh my gosh. Okay. This is a perfect segue to talking about application tracking systems. ATS, like, what is your system looking for? How do you guys use it? Can you give us a little bit of information on that?
Well, yes, I can tell you a common misbelief is that the AI system or the ATS system rejects resumes. It does not. Ours does not reject your resume. I want you to know that there is a person who reviews the resume, and at that point they make a decision. But I think our interview process is a little bit different, and I've heard this quite a bit. If our recruiters screen your resume, you're not a fit, they do let you know that you're not a fit, rather than just having that candidate sit out there thinking that they are an option for for a role that they're not ready for, or not ready to go into, or maybe it's just not the fit for you. But our recruiters have actually gone an extra step. And if they interview you, find you're a great candidate, not a fit for this role, but they have seen a position that they think you're a good fit for, they will send your resume over to that internal recruiter, but they will also send your information to external recruiters, which is different. Most organizations don't do that. So if I see a role out there that I'm going, you don't fit for my role, but you fit at that company over there, let me send your resume to that company. We will take the extra step and do that for, that particular candidate, because we know that right now people are looking for jobs. I know there are a lot of industries where they are having a difficult time finding candidates and applicants, but there are also applicants who are finding a hard time finding a job as well. So they kind of feel like the 2008, I hear the Great Resignation is happening, but I got my hand raised and nobody's calling on me. Right. And then also making sure we educate the candidate on the interview process. So we do a good job of walking you through when you apply. What is this position looking for? What kind of questions will the hiring managers ask? If you answer a question incorrectly, we go back and we revisit that and help you understand how you should answer it in the future, not just disqualifying you based on, those details. And so I think all of that goes into creating a great candidate experience, because if someone doesn't tell you you're doing something wrong, how else are you supposed to know? How else do you know?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So again, everybody who's listening, this is a good recruitment process. Right. And I think too, this feels like the difference between somebody who's been in recruiting for a long time and gets it versus a lot of the newbie recruiters. And there's nothing wrong with being new at your job. Absolutely nothing. It's a learning curve. We've all been there. But honestly, I see the difference, versus some of what I'm hearing from candidates about, lack of communication and being ghosted and all of that. So again, so refreshing to hear that there are companies out there who value, the people who are coming in and applying and want them to succeed. I'm just so happy.
But you know what? I think that's a little bit of the agency side recruiting that's coming out, because in the agency side, you really do get the opportunity to really partner with the candidates and be a true candidate partner. Whereas if you've been strategically and strictly corporate, that is not typically taught on the corporate side. You are for the company. Right. And I am for the hiring manager. I am not the candidate's partner. Right. So I think we kind of want to balance it out and be partners to both business and candidate.
Right. Well, and if you're in high volume corporate recruiting, it's really hard.
It's a turn all the time. You're constantly going.
Yeah. Like there are some recruiters where they're getting hundreds, if not thousands of applications for a position. And so there's only so much you can do at that point.
Absolutely. Yeah, because you are just getting bombarded by positions. But I found that in some of those high volume roles, a lot of them are starting to see the struggle too. Right. Candidate and applicants are starting to drop down. So they're not getting as many applications as they once were. And of course, we're still dealing with the Great Resignation. But it's also, I saw something on LinkedIn that I thought was great. They called it the Great Reevaluation. Mm-hmm. That's what this particular recruiter called it. And she said, it's causing us to reevaluate how we do everyday business and what could we do better? What can we offer up more of? What can we change or evolve? Because doing business the way we've always done business is not the solution anymore. Candidates want something different, but the businesses need something different as well.
Yes. It's an opportunity across the board. Candidates, they're looking at their values more. You said it earlier. They're asking these deeper questions. That means that they're connecting more with who they are to make sure that it's a good fit. And the companies are having to make changes too, some forced because we're in the pandemic. There's only so much we can do, so I love that. The great reevaluation. Another person that I interviewed talked about it being the great reshuffle as well, and so I love all these different names that it's having, because I think they all ring true. It's, we're in the middle of massive change within the world of work, and It's exciting. It's a little stressful, but it's also really exciting.
Right. And something you said earlier, I want to go back to. You talked about recruiters ghosting candidates, and that's something I see a lot. But I don't see the articles about the candidates that are completely ghosting recruiters. Like no
Yes.
reason, no rhyme, no answer, just suddenly gone. And these are recruiters who have positions that they are ready to offer to that candidate. Like, we have an offer in hand. All we need you to do is show up for the interview, and the candidates are just not showing up, or not showing up day one, because they've received another offer in the time frame. We used to be able to have an interview process that was pretty lengthy, a week, maybe 2 weeks. That was a lengthy interview process. Interview process need to be like a day at this point, because the candidates will get 4 and 5 interview offers within that time frame. So we drastically needed to change things, which is one of the things that we turned around within recruitment, was in our shop division. For our entry level positions, those would be our level 1 positions across the shops, we have changed the process to now allow our recruiters to interview candidates, find talent, and find a great candidate for the role who understands it, and then be able to extend an offer to that candidate and get them started a lot sooner. So that interview process has changed up a lot for the team, but we're seeing great success with that. The first week we launched that position, we had 13 offers in 1 week.
Wow.
And I mean, we had about 64 positions available for level 1 positions, and 13 were filled the first week.
Wow.
We're seeing great retention with that. 40% of our positions have already been filled in the short time frame that we have had this new process in place, which is phenomenal numbers for any organization. But to be able to cut down the interview time and find great talent and get them started immediately has just changed the game for us.
Well, and on the candidate side, I feel like there is not enough education around etiquette, around application etiquette. And I used to work in higher ed. And so when I was working with students of all levels, freshmen to masters and all of that, and we talked a lot about etiquette, because I had students come in that would be like, okay, I've got 2 offers, or I got an offer, but I know that I have another offer coming. How do I manage that? And the biggest thing for me was like, you need to respect the person on the other side of this. Yeah. Like, do you owe them anything? Like, yes and no, but they've taken time. They want you, and the other side too is the negotiation leverage between 2 opportunities.
It's something.
There's a lot of power as a candidate. If you're a really strong candidate and you're getting multiple offers, you have a lot of leverage to make that happen when you have multiple offers. And I hope people who are in those positions, are getting good advice around that, or they're working with a career coach like myself, or they've, read the negotiation books, like something. Yes. Because you're missing out. But that etiquette piece, I have seen that as well. And one of the things I think I've said on almost every episode that I've recorded thus far is there is somebody at the other end of this.
Yeah.
Recruiters are people, like, yes, there are online systems, but everybody that I've talked to so far, somebody is looking at that application. It's not being auto rejected, none of that. And I think that the candidates, I think they're being fed a narrative in some ways that's like really, really negative. And yes, that is some people's experience, but it's not everybody's experience. And so we have to make sure that we're looking at all different sides of the hiring process, and that you're understanding that there's somebody else on the other side as well.
I think that is very much a very interesting point. And I think it's very accurate. Some people don't know how to have that conversation, or I feel uncomfortable having this conversation after talking to you for a week. And now I'm about to tell you, Kai, I'm not going to take your job, or I'm not going to take this offer. And so I don't know how to address it. So for me, I just shut down and don't respond to you anymore. And hopefully you catch on that's the reason why I've taken another offer. And it's based around that uncomfortableness. That's really what it is. Or it could just be, I just don't feel like I owe you an explanation. Right. That could be it. I just don't feel that I owe you one. So I think we do need to address that. And also, one of the things that I notice a lot is candidates who are trying to reshift their career. So I'm trying to go into a whole nother direction. Not really sure how to build out my resume in order to go into this thing. So for instance, we had a candidate who was interested in going to recruiting, but her background was in healthcare. And she just wasn't sure how to get over there, but I know that I wanted to do that. And so having to walk her through what she should put on her resume and how should she make sure she's outlining any transferable skill set that she had in healthcare that could potentially work for recruiting, and that not one resume fits all positions. Because you will get rejected if all I'm talking about is being a CNA and what my CNA role was, but now I want a recruiter position and nothing on my resume talks about any form of any recruitment experience.
Right.
And so candidates have to be very careful that their resumes match up with what they're looking to go into, because that could be the hindrance that keeps you from getting that role.
Okay, perfect segue into the next question, which is all about resume tips. So, can you give me some? You've just talked about one, especially in terms of transitioning, which I know is a big deal for a lot of people right now. What are some other tips that you have on the resume side that like you really want people to understand?
I would say another tip would be proofread your resume. Sometimes the misspelling, sometimes I meant to say this, I meant to say that. That would be one of the best things that I would tell you to do. And the other thing would be that you want to make sure your dates match up. Because when we look at the resume and then we do the background screening and there's a whole different set of dates, it doesn't, they don't go together. They gotta make sure that the dates match up. And the last thing I would tell you to do is make sure you add in any experience, any skill set, any trainings, anything like that, certifications that are applicable to the job you're going into. You want to make sure you have that on your resume.
Okay, can we talk about gaps? Like, do you care about a gap in a resume? Because I'm guessing that that's what candidates are doing, is they're trying to fill in like maybe a couple month gap between positions. Does that matter anymore, especially in light of COVID and, you know, people being laid off and all of that? Are we caring about gaps?
Well, I would say it really just depends on that particular recruiting company. It doesn't for us. If as long as you can talk us through what happened, it can be a life thing to happen. Maybe somebody got sick, birth of a child, relocating. We are dealing and working with military spouses. And so a lot of times they are traveling and following their spouse around from base to base to base. And so there may be gaps for them or changes or short stints of employment. So we have learned to listen to what's going on and make an evaluation from there. It may not be that this person is a job hopper. It may be a realistic issue that occurred. And then, of course, we know that people are leaving employment for toxic work environments. So maybe that's the situation that happened here. I can only stay there for 6 weeks because, Kai, if I tell you what was really going on behind the scenes, that may change your opinion of why I left this company after such a short stint of time. So things like that make a big deal in the process, but we want to make sure that we listen and get to the bottom of the problem. What is really happening behind the scenes.
Right. Okay, that's good to hear. I love hearing that.
Okay. But I do know that some employers, that is not the way they operate.
Right.
So, but that is the way we do it.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Okay, let's talk about those interview tips. So we've mentioned some throughout the interview. What are kind of your go-to, like, make sure that you think about this when you go into the interview process?
Candidates be on time. That's the first thing. Be on time for the interview. Be ready. Get your camera on. If you're going to be on camera, make sure you got a nice, quiet environment that you can work from. Make sure you have great internet. If it's going to be like via Teams, Zoom, or however it's going to operate, make sure you communicate and you're ready for the questions. Research the company. That would be thing number 2. research the company. You may not be able to tell me everything about this company, but should have a good understanding. And if you go to their website, you can find out some details about the organization to ask informed questions. Also, you want to come to the interview knowing about the position. So look at the job description, get a good understanding of the role before you talk to the recruiter. I have had multiple interviews where candidates come in and say, I don't even know what this job is. What do we do? What is this position, Kai? I'm not sure. And that's because I've done a lot of entry level interviewing for candidates. So I've had to coach and say, okay, this is what we need to do before we get to this point to ensure that you understand it. But I've had some positions where it's not entry level, and you still get that question. Wow. Because candidates are not quite sure what this role is, or the job description did not clarify and create a clear picture of what this position was either. So you want to make sure you have a good understanding of the position and of the role. I tell candidates to cheat. Contact somebody in the company who does.
That is not cheating. That is strategy. That is strategy.
Ask some questions. I have no problem going to someone who I know is in that company in that role currently and sending them an IM. Hey, yes. I'm interviewing for this job. Can you tell me a little bit about what your day in the life is? And also reach out to the recruiter. Don't just apply on the ATS system. Yeah. LinkedIn makes it so easy for you to find out who is a recruiter for this company.
Yes.
You can reach out to them, get in front of them, ask some engaging questions, and really be able to showcase your skill set. So those are some of the things I would tell you to prep for in the interview process. Make sure you understand the role, make sure you understand the company, and that you have a list of questions to ask. The only question that you sometimes get as a recruiter is, what is the pay rate beforehand? Now we're getting many, many more questions, many more. And I am loving all of the deep thought that is going behind it. Yes. Don't go super generic, like, what's a day in the life? Like, that's what everybody asks. What's the day in the life of this role? If you're looking for a position where it changes or evolves daily, there is no typical day for that role. Right. You are changing on the fly.
Right.
So you want to go deep dive into, skill set, go into what should I know about the team? Who am I going to work with? What is the manager like? Before I work up under you, let me know what you are like. What do you love? What do you hate? What type of leader are you? How do you motivate your team? What is training and onboarding going to look like? Yes. Am I going to get an offer letter and then I won't hear anything else for like 7 weeks, or what happens here? Right.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. Okay, again, you just gave everybody so many questions that they can ask now in the interview.
Right.
That's so good. Okay. I want to talk about cover letters because this has been very controversial. And you've been in this business for a long time. So how are we feeling about cover letters? Do we like them? Do we hate them? Are they in or are they out? Like, what is your perspective?
Oh, this is going to be a different one because it goes back and forth. I mean, I think it depends on the role for me. To summarize your experience, to really introduce yourself to the hiring manager, to the recruiter. If I was just going to send my resume over to someone's email, then my cover letter would be the body of the email that I send over to you, just to introduce myself before you even look at the resume. But do I attach a cover letter in the ATS system with my resume? Some recruiters don't read it. That's the truth. Some of them do, but some of them don't. And so I think it just depends on the cover letter, because I think there should be something that introduces you to that person, but it should be more personalized towards the person who's going to read it for that particular role. And like I said, I would do it in the body of an email. Like that would be how I would do it. I wouldn't attach it in an ATS system because it could get overlooked.
Okay. No, that's good. That's good to hear. We're getting a lot of different perspectives. So I appreciate having that. And I think candidates, one of the things that I've been saying in every interview is you have to research the company and know what their expectation is, what they're looking for. And so again, I think this is a great representation of understanding what the expectation is.
And just like you said, it's going to be different depending on which recruiter you talk to, just about the cover letter. I think some like it, some do not. Some hate it, some want to see it, some do not. And so, like you said, it's going to vary based on who you talk to.
Right. Oh, awesome. Okay, as we're kind of winding down our interview, what is something that you think job seekers should be doing, but they're not doing?
Oh, that's a hard one. They should be doing that they're not doing. Like the suggestion I made, reaching out to the recruiter for the company. I think a lot of people I've seen on LinkedIn saying I've filled out 500 applications in a year and I haven't heard anything back from the organization whatsoever, or I keep getting the rejection emails. I think the candidates who have caught my attention are the ones who've reached out and sent me a message directly. And I think what candidates find out is our team responds. You can send us an email and we respond. We will answer you if it's a role that we have, but be very strategic in that message that you send out to them. Don't send them a blanketed position or a blanketed email that just says something as simple as, I'm looking for a remote position. Do you have any?
Right.
Remote position doing what? What are you looking for? And that requires the recruiter to go into your page. And if you've had like 10 different positions in 10 different industries and you're doing 10 different functions in them, it's hard for me to understand what you're looking for. So the candidates who come to me and say in the email, hey, Kai, I noticed you were looking for a senior auditor in Kansas. I'm very interested in that role. Here is my experience. Again, cover letter in the email. Here is my experience, and I would love the opportunity to talk to you. I'm available Monday at 7 p.m. or whatever the case may be. Those would be the ones that I'm going, okay, let me check out your profile. Let me look at this. Let me get it over to the recruiter who's actually recruiting for that position, because just because I'm a recruiter for the company, I may not be the one that's recruiting for that role, but I might know who is.
Yes.
I don't know. I can find out simply by going to our ATS system and just shooting a message to, that person. Hey, Sarah, Maggie reached out to me on LinkedIn. Here's her information. She's interested in this role. That will go a lot further than me just receiving a message saying I'm interested in a remote position.
Right.
We have that same issue when we go to career fairs. Candidates will walk up and go, hey, do y'all have any jobs? What jobs do y'all have? What are you recruiting for? Because they really, again, you got to research the company. Go to the career page, find a role that you're interested in, and then start the conversation from there. Hey, I saw that you guys are looking for this role. Here's how my skill set fit that position. I'm very interested in moving into it. That's a completely different conversation than someone who simply goes, what jobs y'all got?
Right. I can tell you, as the person that used to put together the career fairs on the college campuses, the amount of information that we send out to help prepare.
Oh, I know. I know.
And still.
Right.
Like, come on. Like, how badly do you want it? Prepare for it. Like, come on. Okay.
I did a career fair for a local school here in Cincinnati, and went to the fair. And there was this young lady who, I guess the guy she was with was her boyfriend. And he was walking up to the tables and he was very confident, shaking people's hand. And she was kind of reserved, standing in the background, just following him from table to table. She never introduced herself, never spoke. It was almost like a shadow. And I think all of the employers that he was speaking to were looking around him at her, but kind of baffled as to what is happening here, because she never said a thing. So they got to the table next to me and he walked up as bold and as confident as he can be and shook the person's hand and started talking. And I walked over to her and I said, hey. And so she said, hello. I said, can you tell me a little bit about you? And so she said, well, I'm not really here for myself. I'm here for him. I'm a freshman, so I'm not ready for a position yet, but I just wanted to see what this is like. I said, well, come over to my table and talk to me. So she and I started having a conversation, and I found out she was interested in marketing. And just by her talking about her passion, she really began to come out of her shell, because marketing was her niche. So she was like really in her jam and talking. And as we started to talk and she started to come alive, I noticed the manager manager at the table next to me starting to scoot over and just listen to the conversation. And so the more she talked, the more this manager would scoot over. So I started scooting over because I wanted to allow this manager a chance to come and talk to this young lady. Yeah. Well, he ended up extending an offer for an internship for a freshman because he had been looking for somebody in marketing. But had I not taken the chance to step and pull her to the side and get her to engage and talk, she would have completed this and missed out on an opportunity. So like I said before, sometimes you have to take that chance and just reach out to that person because you never know what door you can open for somebody else or where you can be used in order to help somebody go to the next level. And because she got out of her comfort zone and started, out of that little shell and started talking, that opportunity was open for her. So that was amazing to watch it happen instead of this baby being scared. So sometimes they need some guidance. They need us to step in the place of being the leader and guiding them.
Oh my gosh. Kai, this has been so great. I so appreciate you taking time out of your day to share all of this like insane wisdom and knowledge about the recruiting process. Where can people connect with you? How can they get connected with you if they want to talk to you?
I am on LinkedIn. You can find me anytime. And also you can reach me at USX on my email. It's Cunningham, CUNNINGHA at Xpress with an X.com.
Awesome. And I will put all of that in the blog post for this episode. And of course, it's LinkedIn. I hope everybody's hearing that. It's always LinkedIn.
It's LinkedIn. Reach out to me. I do respond. I respond.
Kai, thank you so much again. This has been wonderful. And I know that my audience is going to get a lot out of this interview. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. And I look forward to talking to you soon.